sky, earth, as it mentioned the Holy Quran in 6 days, and mountains, water, stars, rocks, everything. So the living things and non-living things. So when you look at the non-living things, you look at sands, small sands, and then you look at a huge mountain, and then a huge planet like Mars, stars like the sun, and bigger stars, 10 times as sun, galaxies, the whole universe, with the possibility of expansions. And they haven't reached to the end of that universe. And the living things started from an atom, molecules, proteins, DNA, RNA, viruses, bacteria, molds, and you go to protozoa, insects, rabbits, mice, and then you go to the above creatures, cats, dogs, and all the animals in the zoo. And then you got to monkeys. Allah has sent prophets and messengers with the truth, the absolute truth. And then when you open the holy box, you will find out that all of them pointed out to the start of the creation of Adam alayhi salam and Eve. It was really clear, and all the holy books agreed about that issue. Adam and Eve was the first humans on earth. And you can see that in the Holy Quran. In the Holy Quran, Allah explained that into details. He described the meeting between him and the angels, at which he asked them, and he told them that I'm going to create a human being to inhabit the earth. What do you think? They said he's going to spread corruption and bloodshed, because they had experienced this before with another creatures. He said, I don't know what you know not. And this is a dialogue in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter number 2. And then in the Holy Quran, Allah declared that, and He explained that He created Adam and Eve from clay, from water and dust, in different ways from clay. And He went on and on to explain the steps for the reproduction of their offsprings. And only for 150 years ago, someone by the name of Darwin started different theories. What does theories means? He didn't provide any observation. He didn't support his theories and promote it to the level of being a fact. No, it was just a theory. So no, none of the scientists was able to observe what he said. And then what did he do? He went to South Africa, South America, different parts, and he was able to get some traces, fossils of the remains of the creatures who were buried at different locations. And then he figured out that they are connected. And there is a similarity. And then he started to say, this is the low class, and this is the higher, the higher, the higher. And then after that, he went to the monkeys and then to a human being. And then he came up with an idea that the root of a human being goes back to monkeys. So according to the Holy Quran, the evolution of life is the results of divine will and divine guidance. The Holy Quran declares that the harmony and complicity of creation and couldn't have come to its own accord. In contrast, natural selection, the foundation of modern theory of Darwin, credits accidental mutation for the survival of life and its complicity, but it fails to explain how the life was created and how the accident can guide the life toward complicity. So the Holy Quran states that life resulted from evolution. However, this evolution was not blind or random. Rather, evolution was controlled by divine hands. This divine hands accounts for the beginning, diversity, and complicity of life on Earth. However, modern biology, which is based on Darwin's theory of evolution, attributes evolution to the principle of natural selection. According to this principle, humans, animals, plants are evolved by natural accidents. The evolution of human body was simply the outcome of automatic natural process spread out over billions of years. In this immensely long process, humans evolved from one cell organism without any divine help, guidance, and purpose. Natural selection is the cornerstone of Darwin's theory. Unlike the Holy Quran, the principle of natural selection didn't acknowledge the idea of the divine of the universe is designed by an intelligent mind. Another difference between the principle of natural selection and the teaching of Islam is regarding the path of evolution. Natural selection states humans and apes have evolved from the common ancestor, from the same common ancestor. Following this logic, biologists consider apes to be the most recent ancestor for human. The Holy Quran, however, doesn't put forward the idea of the common ancestor and thus doesn't regard ape to be part of human evolution chain. the evolutionary chain. So, as I mentioned earlier, in the Holy Quran, Allah has explained that very clear, step by step, and how humans were made inside the womb of their mother. It is by the mercy of Allah that Allah has honored human being, as He said in the Holy Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Allah has honored humans with the brain power, with the free choice, with a special hearts that will love Him, love Allah. So, according to the Holy Quran, everything was created by Allah in pairs, even viruses, bacteria, microorganisms, moles, and insects, little animal like rabbits, mice, and then you go for cats, dogs, and the other higher classes as you see in the zoo. So everything was created at the final stage of their looking. Someone may say, but dinosaurs and other creatures were vanished. Allah stated that in the Holy Quran. He created something and was gone. So they didn't last for a long time. So I am saying this, and I'm among scientists. If you go by the college, the academia, you must believe in Darwin's theory, saying that your ancestor was a monkey. But if you go by your belief, this is really a false information, and as if you don't believe in God and you believe in nature and you believe in the random um, accidents that creates mutants, and based on that you got human being. My question is, they said it needs billions of years to get the second or the next creatures. For human being, they can live for like between 60 and 70 years old. But for bacteria, for example, they live for 20 minutes. So you can create billions of generations within a couple of weeks. But have you seen an insect comes from bacteria or from viruses? Have you observed? And this is a question for scientists. They haven't seen that. But what they studied, and this is a difference between belief and disbelief. If you believe in Allah, this is a big mercy. This is a great mercy that will guide you through. a great mercy for your brain, for your uh, heart, because it can open um, a good knowledge in front of you. So the difference between Muslim scientists and non-Muslim scientists is Muslim scientists, they go by a divine law. And we believe that everything was created from Allah, by Allah. And all the knowledge that we have in our life, it goes back to the knowledge of Allah. At the time of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, when he traveled to meet Al-Khidr alayhi salam, so he saw like a bird going to the ocean and getting a drop of like of water to drink. He told him that all the knowledge that we have in our life is somehow equivalent to what the bird got from the ocean in comparison to the knowledge of Allah, which is like an ocean. So we know nothing. Our knowledge is very limited. So only for 150 years, humans who didn't believe in Allah and they believe in science, because they found a similarity going across the creatures. They said that the human, the nature selection are the one who produced all this universe and creations. And this is the root of ilhad, atheism. So it takes the non-believer, it takes the believers from Islam, Christianity, Judaism to become non-believer. It doesn't attack one religion, but all the religion. And their aim is to leave humans naked of any belief, just by the wind. Nothing will protect them. And then they say there is no God. So be careful. Be careful of that. On the contrary, Quran is considering the similarity is one of the evidence to the oneness of God. One of the attributes of God, according to the Holy Quran, is that He creates in a stage humans. Humans have also been created in a stage. Without going to many details, but does offer principles that tend to point toward four major stages in the evolution of humans. And this evolution from one stage to another, however, occurred under divine guidance. The Holy Quran disagrees with the blind aspects of natural selection, as well as its past, which places humans and apes in the same evolutionary chain. The enormous gaps between humans and animals in mental potential and social skills raises the issue of the missing link, which is discussed later on. The Holy Quran repeatedly declares that at every steps of creation, the choices were not made by the blind operator of natural selection, but by God, the all-seeing, the all-knowing. But he hasn't simply created nature, but he has also actively been involved in the selection of species. Which one goes extinct and which one survive. So one goes extinct and one goes survive. The creation of and the sustain of all the species depend on the will of God. According to natural selection, however, humans are merely the outcome of trillions of evolutionary accidents created by random events in the evolution process. They have no specific purpose in the universe. Their existence is coincidence. This is a striking contrast to Quranic position that states that it was humanity that is the unlimited purpose of the creation. And there is a missing links. Proponent of natural selection claim that the human species resulted from the mutation of monkeys. This explanation is offered in the light of the similarity in the biological structure of both. Both, if natural selection is based on small changes accumulated over a long period of time, then one should expect to find species that are very similar to human and monkeys. Otherwise, the the great void between humans and monkeys in their behavior pattern and mental potential cannot be explained. A comparison between humans and monkeys in all these fields will show that human potential in is many billions times greater than that of monkeys. Evolution cannot be attributed to mutations without explaining the gap that exists between humans and animals. This absence of an intermediary species is explained by assuming that the record of intermediate stages has been destroyed. It is argued that subsequent research will restore these lost intermediary through fossils findings. This hasn't yet happened. The gap in human and monkeys intelligence indicate that humans may have evolved in a different manners. This picture of evolution goes against the fundamental assumptions of natural selection. which identified one common ancestor for all species. Another fundamental problems which natural selection is that it cannot be referred to as a creator because it doesn't create but works on whatever already exists. So a very fundamental question need to be addressed. Where did an organic material comes from that subsequently turned into DNA and RNA molecules, the foundation of life? Because you have inorganic materials, and after getting mixed with water, as Allah says in the Holy Quran, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. So the inorganic becomes a living molecules and then a living creatures. Natural selection fails to explain this. It merely explains the developments of life after creation. Modern science, despite remarkable accomplishments, hasn't been able to create a single human cells or living enzyme. Even the creation of Adam is beyond the reach of modern science. When I say Adam, this is a non-living creation, the non-living materials. And when I say living enzymes, this is a living materials. Anything more sophisticated, such as genes, chromosome, cells, or microbes, are so complex that scientists are unable even to think about how they can create something like that. So, someone may say nowadays they take the bone marrow and they can um, create um, the alternative meat, but you need to ask them, how did they do that? They should start with the living cells. So here is the issue. Without a living cells, they cannot create what they were able to create in the lab. Because nowadays they can have 3D printer to create or to fabricate fake meat or fish tissue. But they have to start with the living cells in order to enrich that cells, to go for enrichment. And by the way, the lab next to me, they used to do that with plants. So they get a cell from potatoes or from whatever, and then they started a plant. So they can't even think about the slightest degree of their manufacture. The Holy Quran states that life resulted from evolution. However, it identified the harmony and the complexity of creation and declares that all this couldn't have come of its own accord. Natural selection fails to explain the creation of life. The evolution of life, as described by natural selection, produces complexity and harmony of life through its change and mutation. Life has evolved in a progressive fashion from a simple to complex life without any supernatural guidance. Evolution of a complex life due to trillions of accidents in 4.5 billion years depends on too many chances. Hence, every step that life took could have moved in any direction. A single step to be taken in the right direction without guidance is unlikely a chance. For each step to move in the right direction a billion times over and purpose the course that could lead to the creation of human is like a bizarre and unrealistic. So I want to conclude by saying, according to the Holy Quran, the evolution of life is the result of a divine will and a divine guidance. The Holy Quran declares that the harmony and complexity of creation and couldn't have come to its own accord. In contrast, natural selection, the foundation of modern theory of evolution, credits accidents, accidental mutations for the survival of life and its complexity. But it fails to explain how the life was created and how the accident can guide the life toward complexity. By looking at that, this is not only the one issue in academia, because similar theories in economic, in education, in sociology, in physiology, in different branches and different discipline has been added false information and false theories to the knowledge. And many books have been written about that. Didn't I mention to you that at the time of the golden age of Islam, Muslim scientists they wrote many books about the universe, medicine, chemistry, physics, psychology, sociology, and medicine, and so on, in different direction, and everything. They were guided by a divine law, a divine guidance. But when you don't have a belief, um, and you are smart, you are intelligent, your mind will lead you to any idea, any false information. And then later on, you need somebody to prove you the other way around. That has been happening. How many false ideas they come up with, and then we have proved to them the other way around. So I'm going to stop at this point, and inshallah, Sister Layla will lead the discussion if you have something to share. Sister Sahar, you may start, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.
If we think about mankind, we would notice that billions of people, each one of them has a particular shape, has his own features. Allah gave each person his own features using the same four items: two eyes, mouth, nose, and a nose. Mankind is only one type of Allah creatures. Only one type. Each one of them has different features. Subhanallah. So anyone who is mature enough and has insight, if he notices mankind creature, he would realize that mankind is created by God, and it's impossible that they were created by coincidence. And anatomy has proven that humans are different from all creatures in the universe. And the evolution story is mistaken due to the following. I divided A and B. A, evidence from Quran and Sunnah. Allah told us that He created Adam and below the soul in him. Then He ordered the angels to prostrate to him as greetings. Allah Allah let him live in paradise. And these verses are true evidence that the evolution story is wrong. And here are the verses. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم. We created mankind with the best structure. And the other verse, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني خالق بشر من طين فإذا سويته ونفخت فيه من روحي فقعوا له ساجدين صدق الله العظيم. Your Lord said to the angels, indeed, I'm creating a human being from clay. Once I create him and blew the soul in him, you, the angels, you fall down prostrating to him. صدق الله العظيم. And this verse show us how Allah started creating mankind. He was Adam, the father of mankind, and Allah created Eve from Adam's rib and commanded them to live in paradise. And here are the verses. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويا آدم اسكن أنت وزوجك الجنة فكلا من حيث شئتما ولا تقربا هذه الشجرة فتكونا من الظالمين صدق الله العظيم. O Adam, inhabit the paradise with your wife and eat whatever you wish, and don't approach this tree, not to be oppressors. And the rest of the story, after some times from living at heaven, Shaitan whispered to Adam to eat from the forbidden tree, and he ate from it. And that's why they were taken out of heaven and descended to the earth, where they lived and they had their children. So we are sure of how mankind created, no doubt. And before I leave that point, I want to clarify something. Allah said in the Holy Quran, your Lord said to angels, indeed, I will create a caliph means subordinate, khalifa, subordinate. That means the earth is the place where Adam would live. So Allah let Adam and Eve live in paradise. They supposed to live in paradise till certain time. Then they will live on the earth. And according to what happened, The rest of the story, when the shaitan whispered, and they were sent earlier, they have to leave it immediately because they made something wrong. He ate something forbidden. But he would go to the earth anyway, sooner or later. This is his place, okay? And Adam made dependence. Adam admit his mistake, and he asked God for forgiveness. Allah forgave him and sent him to live on earth. Adam and Eve are the father and mother of mankind. Adam was a prophet. Allah taught him everything. That was the evidence from Quran. And the second point is evidence from Sunnah. Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, خلق الله آدم على صورته. And I want to say the meaning of the hadith, not the translation, the meaning. What we can understand of this hadith. Allah created Adam and he looked like as a mankind who is exists nowadays. So Allah created him in the same shape. He didn't move from shape to another shape. Okay? Adam has the same features and same shape. Number B, I collect some scientific evidence shows that evolution theory is wrong scientifically and mentally. Number one, some scientists mention that Darwin himself wrote down in his book on the origin of species there is loopholes in his story, and there are many problems with it. For example, he found some skeletons for animals from before the Ice Age are similar to animals who are exist in our age. They didn't change. Number two, modern science. Modern science has proven that every creature has a genetic map that never changes over time. So each kind of creature has his own adjectives. They doesn't give birth of a different kind of creature. And each type of creature has a certain number of chromosomes, differs from one to another creature. That's why the genetic science has proven that Darwin's theory is invalid. And Darwin claimed that humankind came from animals million years before, while new genetic science didn't prove that. And there are many lost cycles in the chain that Darwin claimed. And the last type of monkey that came before human being, which is semi-monkey, semi-human, nobody found it or found lots of it. Number three, I want to discuss the built-down man. What they call built-down man. In the year 1912, someone who worked as a lawyer and he worked as archaeologist too. He came to British Museum and he presented pieces of a skull that he said he discovered it in 1908 in Beltdown. The skull looked very old and cranium looks belonged to a human. And he presented a jaw belonged to a monkey with teeth belonged to human. And the jaw were not connected to the skull. And they were separate. No evidence that that Jew belonged to the same skull. And evolution scientists insist that they belong to one creature without proving any reliable proof of this matter, because this skull and the jaw were golden opportunity for them to announce that it represents the missing link between monkey and the human. And in the meeting of archaeologists in London, 1912, they said that pieces belong to many creatures. They are, there is no proof they belong to one creature. But people ignore that opinion because the evolution scientists have power in this time, and others doesn't want to contradict with them. And they convince people that this is true evidence. Along 40 years, and many articles were wrote about that. That farce continued till 40 years, till the year 1949, till Kins Oakley from British Museum, from the Department of Human and Anthropobiology. He conducted a Florence experiment on the skull to determine its age. The result was that it wasn't as old as previously estimated. And later, the same person, along with Sir Wilfred Lee, from the University of Oxford in 1953, they conducted more accurate experiments using the X-ray and the nitrogen to get more accurate results. And the experiments show that the bones were completely new and dated to the current era. And when they put the bones in acid solution, the stains on them disappeared. The stains were created artificially to give the impression that they were old. And when they examined the jaw and the teeth with microscope, they saw that these teeth are human teeth that had been artificially implanted in the jaw, and they were called to appear old. And in the 11th month of 1953, the result of the experiments were officially announced and were as follows. The belt-down man is nothing but a case of roguery and deception carried out by professional people. The skull belonged to a contemporary human, while the jawbone belonged to a 10 years old monkey, and the teeth are human teeth that were artificially implanted and mounted on the jaw. It also appears that the bones were treated with dichromate solution potassium to create camouflage stain to give them an ancient historical appearance. And the fourth point, I want to speak about the Jawa man. The Jawa man, what they call the Jawa man. The Dutch doctor Eugene Dubois declared that he discovered the lost cycle in the evolution theory. He found a piece of a skull that doesn't look human and a human femur bone from the leg. And he told people that they should be belong to one creature. Skull of a monkey and a part of the leg of human. Okay? He is a human monkey, walks straight with no evidence as usual for the evolution scientists. And after 30 years, he spoke in public and he showed the scientists another two human skulls he found near the previous birds at the same time and same place. And he hides them. He hides that evidence. That was a huge surprise. Humankind lived at this time and looked as the same as we look now. And what he found 30 years before was a skull of a monkey. And he hides the two human skulls all these years to prove the evolution theory. And he admitted before his death that what he found first was monkey skull. All evolution scientists doesn't present any scientific evidence that pieces of monkey and human belong to one creature. They present a story of their imagination as scientific evidence. And now I will speak about the Nebraska man, what they call the Nebraska man. And that was repeated when they declared in 1922 they found a tooth in Nebraska belonged to a creature between human and monkey. And they call him Nebraska man with a photo of their imagination for that creature. And many years later, scientists discovered that tooth belonged to a pig. This all a lie. They dress up as science. And I want to end my speech with a verse from Quran, from Surah Al-Sajdah, verses from 6 to 9. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذي أحسن كل شيء خلقه وبدأ خلق الإنسان من طين ثم جعل نسله من سلالة من ماء مهين ثم سواه ونفخ فيه من روحه وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون. He perfected everything which he created and began creation a man from clay. Then he made his posterity out of this extract of a liquid disdain. Then he proportioned him and blew the soul on him and made for you hearing and vision and hearts. Little you grateful. Sadaqallah al-Azim. Thank you.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Jazakallah khairan. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, don't be very happy and excited when you send your kids to like public schools, universities, because before that, you need to send them to Islamic schools where they receive the absolute knowledge and facts about the universe and about life. Because if you let them to go on their own without having a solid foundation about the universe, about the creator, about the creatures, they may come back to you without any belief, like atheists. And I mentioned to you that this is one example, is the evolution. But this is not the only example. This is in biology.
Yes.
This is where we believe in the observation. But in biology, we can't publish any paper without observation. We have to see a change occurs, something happen, and we have to record every change. And based on that, we can publish our manuscript. But when you talk about human studies, women studies, history, psychology, sociology, education, and so on, the list is long because these knowledge are on the hand of non-believers now. They are the master. So they have nothing to guide them. And then they got a cup of wine, and then when they go high, they write some theories, and then they teach you that, and you have to abide by what they did. You have to memorize it. You have to digest all the knowledge as it said. Subhanallah. So I want Sister Layla to explain more on that.
Yes,
because she's expert in that area. Yeah.
Subhanallah. We have, and this I really like. I'm going to definitely make a short of that. How he said that, nowadays as Muslims, we become excited and we send our kids off to the university to get these degrees and stuff, not realizing that they're exposed now to a secular education that is not based on Islam, that's not based on wala wal bara. And that's what we've been speaking about in our class. When it comes to going to the university, taking classes, you have to know how to implement el-bara, distance yourself from that which is going to oppose Islamic morality, Islamic ideology, because the Kafirs got a theory for everything. And the easiest classes to take in university are the psychology classes, the philosophy classes, because all that is based on someone's theory, someone's opinion, okay? Not based on facts often. And your children get sucked up into that to get an easy, passing, or to get a degree easier, and they come out messed up Islamically. We've seen very famous people of knowledge, who graduated from the University of Medina, excellent people of the Dawah, people of the Sunnah, and then they went to these Princeton, Howard universities, and they changed their whole ideology. Now they believe that you can pray to dead people, that you can talk to the dead and the dead can hear you, because they were exposed to that theology and that ideology. So we have to be very careful. We have to utilize well better in everything. Sister Norto, you have to want to share. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add what you said is true, Miss Layla, in regards to what you guys are talking about, the secular education. I remember when I was in high school, and while my parents are out busy, making money to take care of us or whatever, they're not really sure of the curriculum that we were learning. I remember when I was in high school and I was taking an anthropology class, and we were learning about how humans come from evolution, like how humans come from apes. And I actually believe that at that point, because I'm still a child and this is what I'm being taught. So as children, we grasp the things that are being taught. I was like, but in the back of my head, I always had the idea of, how the heck do I come from gorillas and apes? That don't even make no sense. And the way with the evolution they're trying to tell you is, oh, you come from apes because you guys have the same characteristics as an animal, which made no sense to me. And it is true with you. We have to be careful how, what classes these kids are taking and stuff, because it influences your mind and you grow up believing that stuff. But of course, once I learned my religion, I realized that doesn't even compare to anything of Islamic related. So it is true. We need to really be careful what classes and stuff that we do take, or what it's true. We as Muslims need to take our children to learn about Islam properly. We're too busy making money, but we don't understand what the curriculum and what our kids are actually learning in school. And then your kids grow up believing this stuff. They don't know nothing about Allah. They're like, what's God? They're like, how this is what happened with the Big Bang Theory, and everything came out of nowhere. That's literally the things we were taught in high school when I was a child. So it's really, we need to take heed of that, because these kids grow up believing this stuff. They don't know nothing about Allah. They don't know nothing. We're too busy as parents. We're too busy trying to take care of our children. At the same time, even the mothers are supposed to be at home teaching these children about Islam, but the mothers are not like learning the obligations. They're not learning the unlawful. They don't know nothing about their rights, and then they're not teaching to their children, but they're too busy chasing this dunya while their kids are falling behind, and we don't understand that.
Good job. Yes, Dr.
Yeah,
Asim.
that's why you have some Muslims who carry the Muslim's name, and they are famous in their community. But when you open such a discussion with them about this issue, they have nothing. Like, this is what they study. They studied evolution. They studied misery, riba. They studied the gender, not sex, and homosexuality, and so they are misled by scientists, by their professors. So, subhanallah. So Allah has given you the gift, and this gift is your children, and then you don't take care of your children. You don't allow them to get the right knowledge, and then they go and get the false information, the shirk information, and then they may pray and fast, but inside their heart they are mushrik. Because if you believe in the revolution, it means that there was no God. God is their nature, Mother Nature. But if you have the solid foundation about the creation, you will find this similarity bring people to the oneness of God. Because if the universe belonged to several gods, you wouldn't find one norm of the creation. But when you look at the creation, you will find there is one divine law for the creation. You remember Surah قُلْ أَعُوذُ رَبِّ الْفَلَقِ? One norm of the creation. Even when you look at the non-living materials and living materials, they have some similarities. Atoms. Subhanallah. So we need to pay attention to that. So for those who are parents, make sure that your kids are getting the solid foundation about Islam, and they understand what is the universe, who created the universe, and how life is about. And for those who are still students, be careful and try to understand your religion better, inshallah. Sister Leah?
Yes, anyone
Yeah,
else?
and Dr. Assam, also I've noticed that like whenever the kids grow up, right, and they grow up fast, and I've noticed some of the mothers in like in our communities, the Bantu community, they're not teaching their kids respect. They're not teaching their kids mannerisms. They're not teaching their kids anything. Like the kids just grow up. They don't know Al-Fatiha, while other kids their age know it, but they're too busy, in this dunya, and they don't know what their kids are learning. Just like what Miss Layla mentioned in her last lecture she did, how these kids grow up behind closed doors. You don't know what your kid is doing behind closed doors. What education, because whatever education they're being taught in school or their friends, you don't even know their friends, you don't know their whereabouts. They're putting that inside them and actually believe in that,
I agree with you, Sister Layla.
Yes, this is really great. Anyone else would like to contribute? I have and thank you too, Northa. Northa's one of our youth here. I would love to hear from more of our youth. Northa is about to graduate from university too, so she can relate to this. And most of you are in university. Anyone else would like to share? Go ahead. Sister Fan May, what's your perspective on this? I mean, you focus on teaching your kids at home. Fan May she has a different perspective here. She's studying at home. She does all her university classes online at home, so she can focus on her kids and nurturing the fitra of their heart. and to so as to prevent them from being exposed to that. Fatma, do you want to share with us, or are you here? I don't even know if she's here. Fatma?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, sure. I agree with everything that Sister Nancy said previously. I witnessed parents, like she said, working a lot and leaving their kids to the public school system and television, the internet, social media. That it corrupted a lot of kids. I see from my family personally, as well as friends and their family members. And the way we grew up is pretty much that. It was just like the kids were left alone at home by themselves with no one to supervise them, no one to teach them anything, and no one to, even watch and see what they're doing on the media. So it's really sad. It really took a lot of kids away from being in that lifestyle of drugs and alcohol and just giving into their desires and just, fornicating. And it really messed up a lot of kids. And like you said earlier, yeah, I would put the blame on the parents because when the kids are really, they don't know any better. They don't know from right from wrong to good to bad. They'll just do whatever they see or whatever feels good to them. So because I've witnessed all of that, and I've seen it with a lot of families as well as my own. I did made I said I was gonna change that perspective, just to change that generational curse pretty much, and really put my priority on my kids. I always said that whenever I get married, I know that my household would be like my number one priority. So I was still studying at the time before I got married, and so when I did decide to get married, I had to stop with my studying. Um, I kind of took a step back from schooling and stuff like that, and then because I started having kids, and then I was looking at my kids, and I'm seeing how other children were behaving, and I'm just like, this is a really serious thing. Because if you're not there for your kids, there's really no one that's gonna step up and try to raise your kids for you. So it's because it's not their responsibility; it's your responsibility. You're gonna be held accountable for it, and you're gonna be the one regretting it later on. So I didn't want to go through any of that. So I said I was gonna stay at home and try my best because later on kids will grow up and they'll take on whatever they want to take on. But at least you were at home and you tried. At least I could say, I did my job and I tried. And that's what I'm currently doing as a process. And like Sister Layla said, yeah, I went back to school just about a year ago to study an online major. And to my surprise, I thought it was good. I thought it was going to be hard, but actually it wasn't that hard. Like we always said, everything you put your mind to it, you will achieve it. You will reach your goal. And I'm sitting here, and I realize I just have like 3 more semesters left or so, and I'm like, yeah, I'm almost done with this. I'm gonna be at home with my kids. I'm gonna be working from home. I'm most likely gonna be homeschooling them because like I just don't want to take any chances with that outside world. Like that really scares me. So I put my whole focus and priority in my house with my kids.
MashaAllah, that's how you preserve the Muslim identity. And Sister Aisha, I saw your hand up and I wanted to ask you, you're a person that's gone to college. And I remember you coming to me about these classes on evolution, psychology, and philosophy, those classes that contradicted your Islamic beliefs. How did you maneuver yourself through those classes where you were being taught the Big Bang Theory, you were being taught about evolution from apes and all this other stuff? How did you handle yourself from that with that? Aisha, go ahead.
Yes, for me, how I was actually a psychology major, and I had many classes that didn't make sense to me. I was like, okay, what am I doing? I had to actually step back and change my major because some of the stuff that I was learning, like sexuality, like gender, and it was just weird. And I was like, this is actually, this is not, we're not supposed to do this in our religion. And so I actually changed my major because of that reason. Because, like everybody was saying here, we have to actually be careful in some of these classes. Even in my one of my college class, it's not even a gender class, but they made it into a gender class. Like professor, he was going around and he was like, everybody say your pronouns. And I'm like, what is this? This is talking about a medical class. What are we doing learning about gender? And he was like, say your pronouns. And I literally, one thing about me is when it comes to my religion, I don't play around. So I told him in front of everyone, I don't got no pronouns and I'm not saying no pronouns. I don't do that. And he was like taken back, like, yeah, I don't play around my religion. Don't tell me about pronouns. And that I don't I'm not scared, to voice my opinion when it comes to stuff like that. But I know that because I actually learned from this website, and I'm actually learning my religion. I can't say the same for those that are not, like for example, my youngest brother, he's just going into college now. And since I learned, he can take some lessons from me. I told him, take online class because for his major, he take it's online anyways, because I know what comes with college classes. Nowadays they have like many classes that talk about, like the Big Bang Theory, those what is called those things where people, all these. And I was like, I'm afraid for my brother to get into that because for him, he's younger than us. So I'm making him like learn the religion, like I'm making him get on the Sailor class, listen, because because we have, especially in our culture, the parents really don't focus on the kids, So us as his sisters, we actually encourage him, we basically teach him ourselves because we taught ourselves, And so I told him to take classes like, actual computer classes and stuff that doesn't have to do with what they're making you do. Because once you get into that, you really are going to stop doubting yourself. You're going to start thinking things that you shouldn't be thinking. Because when I was a psychology major, I was over here like, I was thinking stuff too about like certain things. And I was like, this don't make sense. So it's just best to always make sure you're reading, what's on the description of the class. If it has anything to do with gender, get out of it because they're definitely gonna make you say all this stuff about what is sex, what's your sex, And I even had one of my teacher in my class. She was like, "What is your sex?" And I was like, "Sex is female. You female or you a male? That's it." And she actually gave me a bad grade for it because she didn't like the way I answered that. So it's just best for some of this, some of the adults, like Sis Fame said. One thing like she said is she learned from, her past as when we were younger, but she didn't do the same thing now that she's a mother. She's like actually focused on her kids. And that's what, I would encourage all the other women here that are married and have kids to do, make sure you're aware of your kids, what they're doing, and make sure, you make sure everything like their phones, make sure you're aware of everything. Make sure just to teach them the religion the right way, because or else I'm telling you, this dunya is a problem.
Yeah, Dr. Asim, go ahead. Dr. Asim?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. Subhanallah. So I understand how painful it is when you go to learn such knowledge and you pay the tuition and you're waiting for graduation, and all of a sudden you found out that this is not the knowledge that I'm looking forward to learn. And I told you this is not limited to one career or one branch discipline of science or education. So in every discipline, you will find out some false theories and information. And when you dig and you dive into that, you will find that will lead you to shirk, to become non-believer. I'm not saying non-Muslim, but non-believer. No Christian, no Judaism, no Muslims. And unfortunately, it happened to some Muslims nowadays. They go and they learn and they get an A in the course. And they go to the mosque and pray and fast. But when you talk about this issue, so they don't understand it. So how did life begin on Earth? According to natural selection, certain inorganic materials unintentionally combined to form organic materials. Look at that, unintentionally, such as protein, which through more accident, unintentionally and accident, evolved into DNA and RNA. Further chemical accident eventually produced life. This is nonsense. This is nonsense, but this is according to natural selection. In this regard, there are two challenges that the natural selection faces. One, how organic materials resulted from inorganic materials in uncontrolled condition. Second, how did remarkable complex bricks of life, DNA and RNA, evolve out of organic materials? Under laboratory condition, it has been discovered that organic materials can emerge out of chemical reactions of inorganic material. However, this was achieved in a controlled environment. Under the supervision of scientists, the production of organic materials in the laboratory needed proper supervision and proper control. If such a supervision and control were needed to produce organic materials in a laboratory, why were they not needed when the foundation of life were being laid down on Earth? What are the odds that different inorganic materials ended up mixing in proper proportions on its own to produce organic materials? To bring about such a transformation, atmosphere has to be oxygen-free, which was the case at the time according to recent scientific discoveries. Later on, the atmosphere became rich with oxygen as was needed to support life. Such timely chemical accidents, which produced building blocks of life in totally unsupervised circumstances in a changing but favorable atmosphere, hardly seems to be accidental. Another challenge that scientists are facing is how organic materials are transformed into profoundly complex molecules such as DNA and RNA. Natural selection attributes their conversion of organic materials into DNA to chance. Professor Edwin Conklin, he's a biologist at Princeton University, argued that probability of life originating from accident is comparable to the probability of an abridged dictionary resulting from an explosion in a printed shop. A British scientist, his name is G.D. Bernal, believed that attributing origination of life to accident is even less plausible than Adam and Eve story. Again, he believed that attributing origination of life to accident is even less plausible than Adam and Eve story. In other words, the scientist is saying that biblical explanation, meaning the Holy Book's explanation of the beginning of life, is much more believable than the story of accident. Another one, Frank Allen, professor of biophysics at the University of Manitoba, discovered that for a single protein molecules which support and builds life to be formed out of a chance would require 10 to the power of 2 for 8 years. Again, so he discovered that for a single protein molecules which support and builds life to be formed out of a chance would require 10 to the power of 280, 10 to the power of 248 years. This number is incredibly larger than 4.5 billion of years. The scientifically measured age of the universe, 4.5 billion years. If a single protein molecule takes so much time, how much time is needed before that protein turns into human? So again, in order to form a single protein molecule, it takes 10 to the power of 248 years. And this number is larger than the scientifically measured age of the universe, which is 4.5 billion years. Furthermore, modern science has discovered that once organic materials is created from inorganic materials, it is needed to exist in a dry stage to prevent it from reverting back to its elementary form. The Holy Quran, the advocate of divine will, explicitly talks about these recent scientific discoveries. The Holy Quran states that with water did we create every living thing. The Holy Quran further stated that, and surely we created man from dry, wringing clay made from stagnant, blackish mud. This picture of water and clay presented by the Holy Quran seemed to be consistent with the mixture of inorganic material becoming organic, which was followed by a dry stage to allow the organic materials to develop irreversible strength. So I just wanted to mention that, so to give you some insight about the laboratory work and how scientists thought about that. Sister Leila?
Yes, anyone else would like to share with this? Sister Jamila, I see you're here. You had something to say, Jamila? Sister Anissa? Anyone else in here?
What about Elma?
Yeah. Let me see. I took a pill and just dozed off a little bit, but this is what I think I got out of this lecture. As far as the Darwin versus Allah in the Quran. Well, alhamdulillah for Allah, who described how we were created. And now in today's time and earlier, mankind, scientists have proven that there is a sperm drop in the clot of congealed blood, and together it formed a fetus, which then turns into a human being with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It amazes me because not only did Allah actually have the ability to use a man and a woman to create another person that imitate or similar to themselves or look like themselves, have feelings even altogether different from the feelings of the mother and the father. We each have our own brain to think separately, even though we came from two people. The single person is altogether independent, but yet still a part of the two. how people can actually get that confused with the creation of a Big Bang. It's always amazed me, even before I became a Muslim. That amazed me. And then there are, right now today, there are some YouTube little bits going on or shorts going on where this Caucasian lady is sitting in a cage with apes. And these apes are reaching in her pocket to get food, and she's feeding them. And yes, she's watching them. They're close to her. And I see that as yesterday, an ape actually kissed her on her face. And I thought, now how long will it be before the ape actually have a different type of feeling for this woman if he knew better, or if he knew what most human beings who are bad guys would know, he would rape her. I mean, just to sit there and watch that. And then in the Quran, Allah says that he actually turned some of the human beings, some of the Jews, into monkeys and apes. And these animals are actually mimicking humans. They look like humans, similar to humans when humans get around them. The little dogs that people have resembles the people. And the little dogs take on the characters also of their masters. It's amazing. But anything that Allah has created, He's taken care of. I'm just thankful that Allah has created us and given us guidance with the Quran so that we know exactly where we came from and how to live our lives here on earth. Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Anisa. Actually, this topic can allow everybody to give their thoughts and to share what they hear from people around them, because it becomes like, you know, available in the TV programs and YouTube and the social networking. So,
Any other comments, anyone?
so if we don't have anybody to share any ideas, so inshallah we'll end the class at this point.
Can we continue this one next week? I like this topic. Can we possibly do it again? I mean, continue it next week? Because I like this, and this gives them something to think about. Yeah.
So please listen to the record lecture, and inshallah next week we are going to continue that inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.